Hey y'all. Alright, I got the chamfers on the crosses done and cleaned up, and the backs are taped off, and now I'm about to pour the final clear coat on them. So let's get going. I'm doing 3 of the 4 right now that I showed you earlier. We got the copper penny with the copper. We have the rainbow Easter colors one, and then the straight copper one. I'm gonna try to stay out of the edge of the video as I pour. Alright, clear coat, here we come. Sorry I'm a little quiet, I'm just trying to concentrate and focus. I gotta make sure that I have enough epoxy to pour for 3 crosses and have enough coverage on all of them and not pour one of them too short. So I'm trying to be a little sparingly right now. And once I have enough coverage on all 3 crosses, then I'll see where I'm at and try to hit any low spots that I got, and I need more. Alright, we'll hold that there a minute because I got a little bit left, but I got to go around each cross to make sure there's enough coverage on each one. If I don't end up touching the others. So you just hit that real quick, you come around and hit the edges. Trying to look on the back side and make sure I can see the edges. Now I'm hitting the edges, but there's still some open spots that didn't get touched on the chamfers. So I'm gonna have to come back, spread it out a little bit more over the chamfers, but I gotta make sure the sides are completely covered. And you can probably see a few spots. All right, we'll hit this chamfer here. There we go. Got that one done. Make sure this entire side's done. Oops. The bottom. I want complete full coverage of the clear coat over every part of the cross. If I need more, just pull from what I dropped to get right over the edges. I bought these new silicone mats because apparently epoxy doesn't really stick to it very well, so it's easier to clean up. You just cover this, then hit my edges. Now I'll come back over this with a torch or a alcohol, not the kind you drink, about 99% isopropyl, so I can pop all the bubbles. I just gotta make sure I have full coverage, not insurance, full coverage epoxy. All right, that one looks pretty good. Now I'll make sure I got enough coverage on this one. It might be hard to see in the video, maybe off a reflection, but you might not even be able to tell where there's epoxy at or not at. I'm looking at different angles and using the reflection of the light to see what's covered and what's not covered. And then I'll just come back and make sure I hit all these edges. Complete full coverage around every edge, every chamfer. This is self-leveling. It is well, it's self-leveling, but it's also gravity will pull it down. So I just gotta make sure I have enough coverage where the gravity pulls it down. It actually covers those spots. This one's kind of thin, per wife's request, my AKA customer. She didn't need it thicker, so we wanted a thin pour on this one. Just kind of going around the edges, make sure I got all the corners. Because sometimes these corners being a little sharp, you lose a little bit of the surface tension. And what the epoxy likes to do is not cover that area. I try to start from the inside of the intersection and work my way out. Because when you get down there, it's kind of hard to, not really hard to turn, it's just easier to do it the other way around. Got a little squirrely there, didn't I? I'll go on the other side and finish up the last one. Alright, let's get a little bit down, push it over the edges. Get this bottle out of the way now. Alright, let's hit the chamfers. I don't know if y'all can tell, but right here it's not covered down near the bottom. You hit this chamfer, run it, and then the bottom one. Now the chamfer's got some coverage. That one's good. That one needs a corner cut. This one needs a corner. From this one, go up top. And then there. Get some more off the bottom. Yeah, I was missing some right there. Get some more out of here. And if you're ever like pouring a countertop, this is how you would make veins. This is all just clear, so it all blends together. But you would just scrape up the drippings, or whatever color it is, like so, like this, get on there, and you just drag it across your workpiece like this. And that's how you make veins. You know, the other day I made a tiger cross for LSU, and I did like that. But see, because it's clear, it blends right back in. But that's how you would make your veins. All right, now I have the chamfer. Now I'm going to hit the actual edges. It's hard because this one's sliding around on me. And this is hurting my back, bending over like this. So I'm about to finish this up and be done because my back is killing me. There we go. And let me just double check. Make sure I have full coverage everywhere. And if I see any missing spots or low spots, I'll hit it up real quick. Like right here. There's a little spot missing. There we go. Got some coverage now. Now, when these cure, the backs of them have tape on it. So what I'll do is pull that tape off, and it leaves the back clean, and there's no spots from the drips coming off on it. But let me see here. That one looks pretty good. I'm trying to make sure that my necklace doesn't fall in it because I don't want to get my necklace covered in epoxy. And see, there is some surface bubbles, so I'm going to come back over this with a torch and hit it with a little bit of heat, which will loosen it up and kind of pour out a little bit easier. But then it also pops bubbles. Heat pops bubbles, but you don't want to put too much heat on it because you could burn it. Yes, epoxy does burn. And then after I run some heat on it, any other micro bubbles I have left over, I will hit it with alcohol. And that also, it cools it off, but then it also pops bubbles as well. Just trying to see if I've got full coverage here everywhere. Everything's covered. Ooh. There we go. Now the thicker you pour the crosses when they're in the mold, the more coverage you're going to have to do later because it's thicker. All right, that looks good. And just so I don't waste this, I'm just going to pour it on here just for the heck of it. So we'll get to watch one last little pour. I got full coverage everywhere now. And it just blends in because it's clear. And when I hit this part with the heat, it's just going to thin out a little bit and pour over the edges. It's kind of cool watching it as it starts to drip over the edges. All right. Just going to put that right in the center. Actually use this to scrape it off. A big old chunk right there. All right. That's good enough for that. Now, with my handy dandy torch, I'll hit it up with a little bit of heat. Pop in the surface bubbles. If you're constantly moving, you're good. If you leave it in one spot, it will burn. And I'll give you an example here in a second. I'll put it on the drippings underneath, and I'll show you what it looks like when you burn epoxy. Now, I hit the tops. I'm going to go back and hit the edges of each side because there are side bubbles too. I try to hit all the same angles at once before I go to the next angle. Alright, we hit the left, the bottom, that's the top. Alright, let me find a spot. I guess we'll go right here. Watch what happens. It'll start smoking, then it turns yellow. See the smoke? I don't want to burn more because I can see it melting my silicone mat there. Let's see if oh gosh, it stinks. Oh my gosh. Do not inhale that. That was gross. That was unexpected. See what happens back here. You can't see it, but you saw the smoke. Yeah, you don't want to do that. That stuff stinks. It stinks, and it's actually burnt now, so it has a little bit of yellowing. I'm not going to move the cross out of the way or move the camera because I'm stationary, but it looks a little bit yellow. And then I'm going to hit it with some unspoken alcohol, 99%. This will cool it off because I did just hit it with some heat, and you want to cool it off so it can start curing, but it also pops all these micro bubbles. There we go. I'm gonna hit it a couple angles here so it gets like full coverage of the sides as well. And I know I'm making a mess, but it'll be all right. All right, all right, now I'm gonna leave it alone. Let it sit there for 12 hours to cure pretty hard. It'll still be somewhat little bit soft, but it'd be cured for the most part. But if I really wanted to damage it, I could put a little extra heat on it, or not heat, but pressure, and it would indent because the epoxy is not fully cured after 12 hours. It's like partially cured in a way. But after 24 hours, it's fully cured and rock hard and crystal clear. Okay, I gotta fix a few things because I see after covering that up, there's some uncoverage now. So I'm gonna put a little bit right back on here. This corner's got a little uncovered. Sometimes when you do this, the corners like to come uncovered. I'm not going to use that burnt epoxy because it's yellow. Nobody wants that. I'm just going to hit all the edges again with it. That way it cures up good, even. This corner. And then as it cures, it slowly drips and evens out as it thins. Or is it spot? There was a spot over here. I'm trying not to get that burnt epoxy up at the top. All right, let's use a little bit here. I mean, this is kind of like doing veins, but we're doing clear veins. Whoa, that was a lot right there. See, if you don't hit these corners after you do it, sometimes it'll be uncured and you'll see a open matte or flat spot that does not have gloss on it. See if these corners are strong enough to stay. Yeah, it looks like it. But just in case, let me hit a few spots. I'd rather have too much epoxy on there than not enough. Customers may not know it, but I do, and I don't like giving out products to customers that I'm not satisfied with, because I'm a perfectionist and I want everything to be just perfect. Because if it's not good enough for me, it's not good enough for my customers. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's see there. I don't want to hit it with heat again because it might thin out again, and I don't want to be too thin. So we'll just leave it as is right here. There's a little spot I saw right there. So these crossers are going to, well, one's my wife's, this one, the colorful one. So I might make a little error on that and be okay with it because she can just suck it up and deal with it. If she even finds an error. Normally she doesn't. But sometimes it might be annoying to me and it's just not good enough. But these are for 2 people at my church. And actually you can see the difference now between, well, they're both copper. That one looks darker because it's just copper alone. I don't know, this one's crazy how it's like lighter, but it has a copper penny underneath, which is darker. But I think it's because the thickness of how thick I poured this one and how that one's a little bit thinner. It makes no sense, probably because this one's fully cured on the bottom before I did the second layer. This one's a single layer, that's a double layer. And you can use alcohol to clean your hands because I can feel epoxy on them. But they look pretty good. I think the guys at church and the ladies at church are going to like these. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys. Go check out all my other videos. A bunch of epoxy stuff. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, have a good night.